Greg here, and this is the iPhone 13 mini, taking it out for a full day in New York City, and we're shooting this all on the iPhone 13 Pro. So what you're seeing now is actually the cinematic mode on the iPhone 13 Pro, but most importantly, we're going to try and focus on a day in the life with the 13 mini and actually see if this lives up to the battery life claims of a 1.5 hour improvement, because on the 12 mini last year, I found that the battery life just barely got you through a day, and it probably didn't even get you through a heavy day of usage. So with this 13 mini, hopefully that's redeemed. As you can see right now, we're at 84%. But let's get to it. And as you can see, in black, because it's slimming, been eating a lot lately, a lot of pizza, a lot of cannolis, have less of a six-pack, more of a six-pack of cannolis, to be honest with you. And while I love cinematic mode and some of the shots I'm able to pull off with the iPhone 13 Pro, it is far from perfect, and especially in this clip, it falls short around the ears, and especially when I bring the iPhone into view. Now, after a strenuous train ride where we sat the whole time, and after a visit to the outside of the World Trade Center and taking some pictures, I decided to sit down, slumped over, looking like a guy who just got into a bad breakup over a text message, but I was really just checking Twitter on my phone, which, by the way, feel free to follow me there, where I posted a bunch of pictures from this recent trip, and you can see that we also use the 13 Pro stock camera app with no manual controls to record this video, so apologies for the black lines you are seeing on the iPhone. That's due to the shutter speed of the camera and the phone's refresh rate, and these lines aren't actually visible to the human eye. The 13 mini has a beautiful 5.4-inch OLED display, and it fits into a phone size that is barely bigger than the iPhone 5, but packs in a screen size that is just 0.1 inches smaller than what previous plus-size iPhones used to have. The OLED display is also brighter this year at 800 nits, making it even better for outdoor use, where the screen remained easily readable and viewable as I watched one of Patrick Tomaso's videos, a man who can turn the city of Toronto, a city known for its creative YouTube scene, overpriced oat milk drinks, and Tim Hortons, into a city where I would consider living. And besides the size difference, the Mini's display is identical to that of the regular 13, which means it features a smaller notch, but honestly, who cares? And it lacks the ProMotion display of the 13 Pro and Pro Max, and after just getting off the 13 Pro and using the Mini, it took me 5 minutes to forget the fact that the ProMotion display was even a thing, and scrolling and navigating the user interface felt smooth and quick with no slowdowns. And with taking this phone out a bunch in the city and doing kind of this photo walk day, my favorite feature about the Mini is the form factor. It's a size that effortlessly fits into any pocket and doesn't have that uncomfortable in-pocket feeling you get with bigger phones like the 13 Pro Max, where you just feel like you're kind of weighted down by a brick. The size also is great because it fits into your hand, especially for me, where I think I tend to have smaller hands, and the phone is so easy to handle. Like, this is the only iPhone where I feel really comfortable typing one-handed and can reach the entirety of the keyboard and practically all of the display with just holding the phone regularly with my thumb. Even the regular iPhone 13 Pro, which I'm probably opting to use this time around, is a 6.1-inch display. And that's a lot bigger than the iPhones of the past, and don't even get me started on the Pro Max. Like, that is just a ginormous phone. So the thing I really appreciate about the Mini is the smaller form factor. It does almost feel like taking a step back in time, but the display is totally usable. You got a 5.4-inch OLED display, 800 nits of brightness, really shines in this outdoor use case scenario, or having like bright sunlight and stuff like that. I can still see everything clearly on the 13 mini, and everything to me is super legible. And you're not losing anything with that form factor, maybe battery life, which we'll kind of figure out towards the end of this video, but you get all of the same features as the regular size iPhone 13, including the camera system, which is actually basically the 12 Pro Max's camera system from last year, and you're getting things like sensor shift stabilization on the 13 mini's camera now, and that is a nice big improvement. So you're really not losing any features by going for the 13 mini. It really is just a preference now of whether you like the form factor and if the battery is able to keep up with your daily workflow. But the more I use the Mini, the more I kind of realize that we have to realistically look at upgrades to the 13 Mini over the 12 Mini, and there's only really a few notable ones that could make all the difference over last year. First and foremost is the bigger battery, still to be tested by the conclusion of this video, a slightly brighter display, a smaller notch, a faster A15 chip, and camera improvements. And because the 12 Mini never felt slow and the 13 Mini feels just as fast, I don't really think there's that much to test here. The A14 was fast, the A15 is faster, but not noticeably faster in day-to-day use like you might have expected in years past. Which means what I kind of really need to test here in New York City, and the reason why I'm here, is to test the camera. So after taking some more photos and really liking the way that they're coming out here, and for the record, I think these phones look really good, but this is bright sunlight, and not really a test of the 13 Mini's camera system, so we'll kind of have to wait a little bit longer to test its low light performance. After taking all these pictures, we decided to move locales for now. I was kind of getting a little bit hungry, so I decided to hit up a pastry shop on the way, and get a morning coffee and a snack. The Mini was running navigation for me on this 10-minute walk, and we enjoyed the fresh air and sights of New York. All right, so taking a little bit of a break. We've been doing some things, eating some pastries, all that good stuff, but it's almost about 1 o'clock here, and we're looking at 57% battery usage, which is okay, because I've been using this thing like crazy, taking photos, videos, everything. So I've been using it non-stop, so it's been heavy usage, but we are almost at afternoon here, and still got 57% left. Not, you know, if I was on the Pro, I feel like I'd have a lot more left, but still, this might get us through the entire day. After a quick stop for some coffee, I wanted to hit up Chinatown for some more pictures, and the 13 Mini performed really well in typical bright sunlit areas. Dynamic range was really good to me, and I love the photos, especially where the street was covered by shade, rays of light were hitting the building, and the sky was exposed perfectly blue. Video quality was also really good here, shooting in 4K at 30 frames per second on the native camera app. It really is impressive just how good the smartphone in our pocket is at recording video. Just really, again, want to point out the form factor of the Mini, because I really think that's the reason to consider it, is just because of how lightweight, how pocketable, and how easy this phone is to handle with you. So even as we're walking around, you know, holding this and typing things out, going on Twitter, posting more photos. Like, I just love this form factor so much that I really almost wish that we had like the Pro camera system on it, because that is something I'm missing with the Mini, is actually the 3x telephoto on the new Pros. The Mini only has the wide angle and the ultra wide angle, and as I was taking photos, there's a couple times where I really wanted to get closer up with the Mini, and you just can't do it. So that's one thing I'm just still kind of missing using this phone after using the Pro. Really wish it had the 3x on there. Eventually I wanted to get some more food because people love taking photos of food, so I had to do that too. Okay, really I just wanted to go eat because I'm hungry, but because I didn't want to seem like a gluttonous oaf in this video, I decided to visit one of the underground mall areas in Chinatown, checked out some Dragon Ball Z figures, of course, and testing just some of the video samples that I took of the 13 Mini in indoor artificial lighting, and honestly, this looks pretty good when you figure there's no major external light source here. But enough about that, because we have cinematic nudes, as in cinematic noodles, filmed this time on the iPhone 13 Mini's camera instead of the 13 Pro. After chowing down with we walked around a bit more testing cinematic video mode on the 13 Mini, and also looking at the new camera features, like photo styles, which lets you change the Mini's default photo processing style to something warmer or with higher contrast, but after checking out all the options, I decided to leave it just on the standard profile. Taking some more camera samples of a midday sky and checking Twitter some more, I kind of noticed how much I was taxing the Mini's battery life. So we've been taking the iPhone 13 Mini, and I've been abusing this phone, taking like tons of photos and videos with it, and just using it all day long. But the battery life is definitely not going to measure up to things like the Pro Max, because we are now sitting here at 15% battery life, and it is a little over 5 o'clock, so definitely not a battery champ. But I do have to say that if I was taking my 12 mini and stress testing it in the same way, I think the 12 mini probably wouldn't have made it this far. I think it would probably be dead at this point in terms of battery life. And it's kind of why, even though that the 13 mini performed so well with battery life tests this year, you can't really just take those battery life tests from those videos and go, okay, it's definitely going to get this amount of battery life. That's why battery test videos are so unreliable, because depending on how you use your smartphone, there is going to be more battery drain. So when you're taking a lot of photos and you're taking a lot of video, there's going to be increased battery drain over just watching video or browsing the web. I'm very tempted right now to take this MagSafe battery pack and slap it on the 13 mini, but I kind of just want to see how far I can go even with the 15% remaining that we have on here. So I guess I'm just gonna keep using it. All right, so we're rounding out the day here, doing like battery life tests with the mini, and you can see that we are pretty much at 7% battery life at around 6:37. We took this off the charger at around 9 o'clock today. And again, it's been a heavy day of usage. Like, this is not a traditional day of usage for my phones here, because I've been shooting a lot of photos and videos, and on a typical day, I'm not doing that. So this actually makes me, strangely enough, pretty confident in the Mini's battery life. Again, it's not going to get you anywhere near the 13 Pro, or dare I say the 13 Pro Max, but it's a big improvement over last year's 12 Mini. I know my 12 Mini would be dead by now based on my usage, and I feel pretty confident that I could get through a normal day of usage. With a heavy day of usage, you're going to want to make sure that you charge it up somewhere throughout the day, or maybe get an accessory like the MagSafe battery pack, or another cheaper external battery pack that you can plug into. But I would say that this battery life feels very comparable to the iPhone 12 from last year, the normal size iPhone 12 and the 12 Pro. I feel like you're gonna get around like 5 hours of screen on time with the 13 Mini. I feel pretty confident that this was gonna be a great phone for most people to get them through a whole day. And you know what? If you're gonna be on a heavy day of usage like we were here today, just plan ahead, make sure that you can get to a charger or have a battery pack, because as soon as I'm done recording this segment, I'm slapping the MagSafe battery pack on the Mini. After some charge on the Mini's battery pack, I finished the day taking some nighttime photo samples where I think the new camera system really shines because of just how little I had to rely on night mode, especially on the main wide-angle camera. It was able to take most of these shots without the need for night mode at all, and when I did have to use night mode, the pictures still came out nicely exposed for a nighttime shot and didn't have to use a long exposure. This is the main benefit of the larger sensor size and capabilities like sensor shift stabilization, and in these edge case scenarios, you really start to notice the photo improvements. And if I had one major issue with the 13 Mini's camera, it is those lens flares. They are still here and they are annoying. And while the 13 Mini didn't perform for all day battery life on a heavy day of shooting photos and videos all day, which is super taxing on any phone's battery, on a normal day with the 13 Mini, since I've used this since this trip, I averaged around 5.5 to 6 hours of screen on time. So I actually think that's really good. Like, is the Mini fixed? Yeah, I think it is. It may not be the battery champion of the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, which is making all of the headlines right now, but with reliable usage that's close to the previous full-size iPhone 12, Apple's claims of a 1.5 hour battery improvement seem to be legitimate, and at $699 for the 128GB base model, I think that this is the best valued iPhone out right now that packs in powerful camera features into a phone that actually fits in your hand and fits in your pocket. And you know what? It's not too small. 13 Mini is an interesting phone because I think if you compare it against the iPhone 12 and the 12 Mini, it kind of doesn't seem like that big of an upgrade when you're actually looking feature for feature, but I do think it does get some important upgrades that make it a much better phone this year, and one I think I can strongly recommend this year because the battery life improvements make a huge difference when you're actually taking this out and you're using it for a whole day. Another thing I really like about the phone is the camera on it. So I know the Pro phones basically kind of stole the show this year with their camera improvements. And again, as I said before, I did miss things like the 3x telephoto or the macro mode on the Pro series. But I gotta say, this is the 12 Pro Max's camera from last year, and I really enjoyed that camera system. You get a lot of natural bokeh now in the shots that you don't even have to switch over to the artificial portrait mode. It still has a lot of the cooler features from the iPhone 13 Pro series, like the cinematic video mode, which I think is the coolest feature out of all of the new features that they announced this year. And just overall, it's a really solid camera system built into the 13 mini in a form factor that I love, with good enough battery life. Not gonna, impress you the way that the, 12 Pro Max or the 13 Pro Max from this year did, but I think this is a solid phone choice for anyone, and I just think it's actually a ton of fun to use. If that's one thing I could say, the whole day I've been out here shooting with both the 13 Pro and the 13 mini. These are both incredibly fun phones to bring around with you with these new camera modes. So yeah, it's a strong recommendation for me.